started like a joke. The kind you laugh at with your roommate before realizing you're not laughing anymore. Every night for the past 2 weeks, someone had slipped a letter under my door. Not bills. Not flyers. Letters. Handwritten. Aching words folded neatly into plain white envelopes. Addressed only with my name. At first, I thought it was a prank. Who even writes letters in 2025? But then I read the words lines about loneliness. About wanting to be seen. About noticing the way my shadow falls across the blinds at midnight. They weren't generic. They were intimate. Whoever wrote them knew me. Or at least thought they did. And that was the problem. Because I didn't know him. The first letter had come on a night I was drunk off cheap beer and regret. Sprawled across the living room couch with the TV flickering static in the background. I nearly tossed it out. But something about the shaky handwriting caught me like someone had poured their heart out in ink. It read, "You look like someone who carries the weight of the world but never lets anyone touch it. I wish I could be the one you let in." I should have ignored it. Instead, I kept reading. Kept waiting for the next one. By the 7th night, I hated myself for how badly I craved this invisible stranger's attention. I live in Austin, Texas. I rent a shoebox-sized duplex on the edge of the city where the cicadas sing louder than my thoughts most nights. My neighbors are either retired or too busy living their own lives to notice mine. So when I imagine some faceless man standing out there in the dark, sliding his heart under my door like a thief, it sends a chill down my spine. But here's the kicker. Part of me doesn't want him to stop. The 14th letter was the one that broke me. It said, "I know you don't see me, but I see you. The way you pause before unlocking your door. Like you're bracing yourself for another night alone. I want to take that loneliness away, even if I can only do it in words." I sat at my kitchen table with that letter trembling in my hands. The cheap overhead light humming above me. And I realized my chest hurt. Because he was right. Because I was tired of the silence pressing in from every side of my life. I should have told someone. I should have been scared. Instead, I pressed the letter against my heart and whispered into the empty room. "Who are you?" The next night, I didn't just wait. I planned. I turned off all the lights, sat by the window with my knees drawn to my chest, and watched. Midnight came and went. At 1:15, I heard the softest sound, the scrape of paper against wood. My pulse spiked. My breath caught. I pulled the door open so fast the hinges screamed. And there he was. For a split second, we just stared at each other. He looked younger than I expected, maybe 21. 22. His dark hair was a little too long, falling into his eyes, and his hands were still frozen mid-motion, the envelope dangling between his fingers. He whispered something, maybe my name, but I couldn't process it over the rush of blood in my ears. "Why?" The word ripped out of me like a demand, even though my throat was dry. "Why are you doing this?" His eyes, God. His eyes were wide and vulnerable, like I'd caught him naked in the middle of a crowded street. "Because," he said, voice shaking, "I didn't know how else to reach you." I should have slammed the door. Should have called the cops. Or at least told him to get lost. But instead, I just stood there barefoot on the cold porch, staring at the boy who'd been haunting me through ink and paper. "Do I know you?" I asked. He nodded, hesitated, then shook his head. "Not really. But I see you. Every day. You don't notice me. You never notice me." It was the kind of confession that could tilt either way, sweet or terrifying. My chest tightened with both. The thing is, I knew loneliness. I'd been choking on it for years, pretending it didn't bother me. And here was someone who had put all of his into these letters. into me, like I was the answer he'd been searching for. I should have been angry, but instead, I felt seen. I stepped closer, until the porch light caught his face fully. He wasn't some creepy old man like my imagination had conjured. He was beautiful in a raw, unpolished way-sharp jawline, trembling lips, eyes that begged me not to push him away. "What's your name?" I asked. He looked like he might break. "Eli." "Eli," I repeated, tasting it. "You've been writing to me." "Yes," he breathed. His voice cracked on the word. "And I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I couldn't hold it in anymore." I should have told him to stop. But instead, I whispered, "Don't apologize." And that was the moment everything shifted. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't standing alone in my doorway, staring out into the dark. For the first time, someone was standing there with me, scared, reckless, but real. And I couldn't look away. I wish I could tell you it was simple after that night. That Eli and I fell easily into some whirlwind romance. That I stopped questioning why a stranger had been pouring his soul onto scraps of paper for me. But nothing about it was simple. The next few weeks blurred into something I can only describe as both intoxicating and unbearable. He came by again, not with letters this time, but with himself. We talked on my porch, sometimes until the sun broke the horizon, about everything and nothing. He told me he worked nights at the gas station down the block. He told me his mother hadn't spoken to him in 2 years since she found out he was gay. He told me he'd been watching me walk home from work. How he noticed the way I never looked up. The way my shoulders folded in as if I was apologizing for taking up space. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to tell him it wasn't fair to study me like that. To slip into my life uninvited. But how could I? Every time I looked at him, I saw his bruised heart sitting in his open hands, offering itself to me without a shield. And so I let him in. But real love never comes without cost. One night, Eli didn't come by. Then another. I told myself it didn't matter, that I'd gotten used to the silence before. But it gnawed at me. And then came the letter. Not slipped under my door this time, but stuffed into my mailbox. Crumpled. Ink smudged like his hands had been shaking too hard to fold it. "I can't keep doing this. You deserve someone who isn't broken. Someone who didn't stalk you from the shadows like some coward. I wanted to love you in the light, but I don't know if I can. I'm sorry." I read it once. Twice. The third time. Then I slammed my fist against the counter so hard my knuckles split. Because for the first time in years, I had felt something alive. Something burning. And he thought he could just disappear. No. Not this time. Took me 2 days to find him. I went to that grimy gas station at 1 a.m. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The smell of gasoline sharp in my nose. He was behind the counter, head bent over a worn paperback. Like the world outside couldn't touch him if he just kept reading. "Eli." My voice cracked when I said it, but it was loud enough. His head snapped up. The book slid from his hands. For a moment, I saw its relief, longing, fear all tangled in his expression. Then he looked away. "You shouldn't be here," he muttered. "Too bad." I shot back. "Because I'm not leaving until you explain why you think you get to decide what I deserve." The words hung there, heavy. He closed his eyes, exhaled shakily, and whispered, "Because I'm not good enough for you." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Do you think I'm some saint? Do you think I don't know what it feels like to be broken? You saw me, Eli. You wrote those letters because you knew I was drowning. And now you want to pretend I don't need you. His hands trembled on the counter. I reached across, grabbed them, held on. Stop running, I whispered. That night, we didn't go back to my place. We walked miles through the sleeping city, past neon signs and shuttered diners, until our legs ached and our hearts slowed enough for words. He told me about the boy who broke his heart at 16. The nights he thought about ending everything. The way writing those letters to me had been the only thing keeping him alive. I told him about my father who never said he was proud of me. About the empty bed I crawled into every night. About how I had stopped believing love was anything but a fairy tale for other people. Somewhere between confession and silence, his hand found mine. And I didn't let go. The road wasn't smooth after that. We fought God. Did we fight? About trust. About fear. About the fact that what started between us had been built on something unconventional. Something messy. But in those fights, there was honesty. And in that honesty, we carved out a space where we could breathe. Weeks bled into months. The letters stopped. But not the words. Now they came in whispers against my neck in the dark. In laughter spilling out of diner booths at 3 a.m. In the quiet comfort of his head resting against my shoulder as the world spun madly on. One evening, I came home to find an envelope waiting not under the door this time, but on my pillow. My heart stuttered as I opened it. Inside was a single sentence, written in that same shaky handwriting I had grown to love. I don't have to leave letters anymore, because you finally let me stay. And maybe that's the truth of it. Love doesn't arrive perfect. It doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it slides under your door in the middle of the night. Messy and terrifying and impossibly fragile. But if you're lucky, if you're brave enough to open the door instead of locking it, love will be standing there trembling, waiting ready to finally step inside. And this time, I won't let it go. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.